it's Ally Burnett with the Buyer's Box, and today we have a very special guest, Bryan Reilly.
Hello.
Hey, can you tell the crowd a little bit about you, your team, and some of your experience?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Bryan Reilly. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, western part of Pennsylvania, opposite side of the state from Philly. We're nowhere close to Philly. I know a lot of people are like, I know somebody in Philadelphia. It's like 6 hours away. We don't know anybody over there. Um, so Western Pennsylvania, I've been in business since 2016. So I was a stereotypical, Pittsburgher, worked in a steel fabrication shop for 12 years before I got into real estate. Started out part-time, worked my way to full-time, started growing my team in 2019 and took it apart, rebuilt it like three different times, learned a lot just about people and team building and leadership in general from doing that. And we are now at 15 agents on the team, including myself. My wife is also licensed, and we're growing and we're having fun doing it.
Awesome. So our teams are about the same size. Brian does a lot of calling on different lead sources, and so Brian, can you talk a little bit about, I guess briefly, like where are you getting the leads from, and then what are you saying when you call them?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've done ever since I got started in the business was, maybe you've heard it. I feel like it's not said as much now as it was back like 2016, 2017. Listings are leverage, right? Go for listings, focus on listings. Um, I know the business has kind of shifted. A lot of the models have kind of shifted away from that, but we've kind of stuck with that. Um, that was how I was kind of raised up in the business, and that was how I generated business. And so when I'm helping somebody new get into the business, that's all I know in terms of, starting at zero and working your way up to, whatever it is. Um, so we prospect a lot for sellers, for listings. That can look a lot of different ways, for sale by owners, expireds, all of that. But we have a lot of success just picking up the phone. We've got some tools. There's a million things out there like RedX and Vulcan, Mojo. We use something called Property Radar, where we'll go in and pick a neighborhood and we'll pull up names, addresses, phone numbers for every single person in that neighborhood. And we will just call every single person in that neighborhood. Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
And what are you saying when you're calling them? Because I'm sure they're not happy all the time.
You know what? That is a big myth. That is a big misconception. Of course, there are, plenty of people who are not happy. And there's a lot of people that don't answer the phone. So here's what I
Sure.
know. 90% of the people aren't going to answer the phone. Only 10% of them will actually answer. Statistically right now, and you can Google this and you'll find different statistics depending on what comes up or where you look, but it's anywhere from 6 to 20% of people are thinking about selling their homes right now. And it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 6% actually are, maybe a little bit lower this past year, right? Like the number of sales is down. In 2021 it seemed like 20% of people actually were trying to sell their homes and trying to buy homes and all of that. If you look at all of the homes in your market, in our market, it's a big number. There's 600,000 homes or something, maybe even more than that in our kind of immediate area here surrounding, the city of Pittsburgh. If you called every single one of them and 10% of those people answered and 10% of those people were actually interested in selling, that's a lot of leads. That's a lot of relationships. That's a lot of, potential listings, even if not all of them do, or even if they list and they still end up listing with somebody else. Like it is a numbers game in that sense. But what I tell my team is like the important part is just getting into relationship with people. We know whether you're working with buyers or sellers, like we know it's conversations. The number of conversations is the thing that drives the business. If your goal is to go out and have 450,000 conversations a year, like that's our team's goal divided by, the 15 people on the team, we're going to have 450,000 conversations next year. I'm
Sweet.
not buying 450,000 leads, right? There's people out there.
Yep.
You don't even have to do it over the phone. You could walk across the street. Our office is in a residential neighborhood here. Like there's 600 homes in our neighborhood. I could walk out and go knock on their doors and say, would you have any interest in selling your house? And that's basically what it is. So we would call somebody up and say, hey, Mr. Jones, my name's Brian. I'm a local real estate agent. Just wanted to ask you a quick question about your house at, 123 Main Street. pause and they go, okay, Bryan, real estate, what do you want? What about my house at 123 Main Street? How does this guy know where I live? Right? They're already
Hmm.
starting to get curious. Yeah, I just had a quick question. It might actually be a crazy question, but would you have any interest in selling that house by chance? Most of the time, the answer is no,
Nah, yeah,
right?
right.
But the way that we ask that question, when I say, hey, I have a crazy question, would you have any, or I'll even say, you wouldn't have any interest in selling that house by chance, would you? And, a lot of the times they'll say no. But what's great about that question is it's designed for them to say no. Like I started doing this when I first got licensed in 2016 because somebody gave me a list and was like, call all these people and see if they want to sell their house. I was like, what are the odds that any of these people on this list want to sell this house, right? Like that was what I was thinking. And I think that's what a lot of agents think. So they just don't do it. And what I did, and I don't, this is divine inspiration. I don't know what it was. Like I didn't come up with this on my own, but I was like, let me just approach it as if I already know they're not interested because it's going to make me sound like less of a whack job.
Sure.
Right. If I try to call and say like, "Hey, I'm sure you want to sell your house," like they're going to be like, you're an idiot," right? And hang up on me.
Yeah,
So I took the opposite approach and I'm like, "Hey, you probably don't want to sell this house. In fact, it would be crazy for me to even call you out of the blue and ask you if you want to sell your house." But here's what happens, like one out of two of 100 calls, out of 100 people that you talk to, will just say, "Well, actually, we do want to sell our house." That's crazy that you called. We were just talking about it. Now, like if I call 100 people a day and 10 of them answer, or let's say I call 200 a day, because I can do that in about 2 hours,
hmm
make 20 contacts a day. 5 days a week, that's 100 people a week that I talk to. One or two of them say, yeah, we are actually thinking about moving. How'd you know? That's great. That's not really enough to like keep me going.
sure.
But what happens is when they say, no, I'm not, it's not the end of the conversation at that point. Because of
Sure.
the way I asked the question, because I kind of opened it up and allowed them to say no, now it feels like more of a natural conversation. They don't feel like I'm trying to talk them into something. So like later, years later, after I started doing this, I read Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss,
Yep, love it, love
which
it,
every
love
real
it.
estate agent should read. And what does he talk about? No oriented questions. So I'm like, oh, that's why that works. It's a no oriented question. It starts the conversation. It gets them to put their guard down. And then I say, awesome, cool. Didn't think so, whatever. The reason why I was calling, you're like, in other words, that my tonality is kind of like you're probably curious why I would even call and ask you that question. I don't say that, but that's kind of like the tone behind
Hmm.
it. The reason why I was calling, we're talking to a lot of buyers who are looking for homes in the neighborhood. There's not a lot out there on the market. Or you could say, if you have a buyer, like I know your team, you guys are, it's the Buyer's Box podcast, right?
Yeah.
We've got buyers that we're talking to her. I'm working with a family that's looking to buy a home in that neighborhood. I've got a client who wants a house in that neighborhood. The other cool thing that we'll do is sometimes before we even get this far into it, when we're building those lists, we'll go into like Property Radar, whatever tool we're using, and we'll tell it just give us all the three bedrooms that are 1,500 square feet that are built between this time and this time, because we
Okay.
know that they're going to be roughly in this price range. And we know that's what our client's looking for. We just know there's 100 of them out there, but none of them are on the market right now. It's a low inventory market here. I don't know about where you guys are at.
We have a lot of new construction, so I think that's
Okay.
probably a difference too. There's a lot of houses that are sitting a good amount of time, but I think we're at like 3.5 month inventory. I hope that's right. Normally, Andrew's the one that keeps score of everything
Yeah.
for us.
I mean, ours is actually up a little bit. We're at like 4.5 months of inventory, but that's still pretty low inventory when you look at, the number of sales is down. The number of listings is down. If you are actually out there buying right now, it's still a low number of inventory, right? Um, in terms of the number of options that you have. So if we have a buyer and they're looking for something and it's not out there on the market, we don't just like wait for it to come on the market because it might be
Right.
2 months. We get on the phone and we start calling and talking to people and saying, hey, we've got a buyer. They're looking for a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house in the neighborhood. And that's that homeowner, that potential seller, whoever, that potential lead on the other end of the phone. It's like, oh, wow, it sounds like they're describing my house. Wow. Like it starts to like resonate in their brain. And you go,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So would you happen to know anybody who it is thinking about it? or would entertain an offer for their house.
Okay.
And who's the first person that everybody thinks of?
They're neighbors.
No, sometimes the first person everybody thinks
I don't
about is
know.
themselves,
Oh yeah.
right?
Themselves, yeah.
Right? Yeah, the
That was
neighbors,
silly.
the neighbors is it. That's what everybody says. The neighbor, their family members, but no, it's themselves, right? Like everybody thinks about themselves. So when you say, do you know anybody who would entertain an offer for their house? Now they actually take a second to think about it. Again, still like 80, 90% of them, it's not even anywhere in their brain. So the answer is still no, and that's
Sure.
okay. But the percentage of those people that are left, whatever, like again, it's a numbers game. You've got them to put their guard down, and now they say, well, we've talked about it. Um, we'll probably move, but not for another year or two. And now it's the same conversation that you guys are having with buyers, like, oh, where are you thinking about moving to? Right now it's LP Mama basically at this point.
Yeah.
Like,
Flipping the
where are you
script.
thinking about moving? We're thinking about going to, XYZ, or we're not going anywhere. We're gonna stay local. The kids are still in school, but we need more space. Oh, well, you're looking for more space. You're looking to stay in the district. Okay, cool. How long have you been in your current home? Like wherever the conversation goes at that point. I always tell my
Sure.
team, we were talking about this, offline because it's a buyer's box podcast and I'm talking about listings. But like I always tell my team, what prompts the conversation is not the purpose of the conversation. So yes, we're prospecting listings, but a lot of the time what we end up with is a buyer, whether they need to buy and sell, or they just need to buy, or it's the first person everybody thinks about is themselves, but they do think of other people, especially like parents. If we're calling around, established
Sure.
neighborhoods, they've been there 25 years or even 15 years, and their kids 28 and just got married, and now they're thinking about buying. Um, or they've got like a family member that passed away and they've got this other property. They're the executor of the estate and they've got to sell that. Or they've got a commercial property, or they're looking to buy and move to, Florida or something like that. So now we're getting referrals. Um, or they're going, you know what? Hey, do you guys do property management? Which we don't, but like we can refer them to somebody in our brokerage that does property management. And I always say, what prompts the phone call is not the purpose of the phone call. The purpose of the phone call is to get in a relationship with them, to find out if they have a need or a problem that buying, selling, investing in real estate can help. And if it's not one of those things, or if it is one of those things, but it's not in our market, like there's still opportunity there that we would never have if we were just sitting at home waiting for the phone to ring. Or if the agents on my team were just sitting at home waiting for Bryan to get, to increase his Zillow spend so that their phone could ring more. Because that's not going to happen.
No, I get that. Yeah, we don't buy Zillow at all. None. Nothing.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So that is a little bit of a difference. But I mean, I think what I'm hearing you say, because we track numbers a lot,
Yeah.
is what I'm hearing you saying is you just got to get into action. I think everybody that we've had on our podcast has basically said that you got to get into action. You got to do something. All sales jobs are a numbers game. So, for us, like the leads that we're calling for every 100, 10 of them will answer. So similar to what you said, out of
Yeah.
those 10, we try to keep 8 on the phone for at least a 2-minute conversation. Out of those, 2 to 3 should be buying in the next year. So then you start building up your pipeline.
Yeah. It's the
And
same
so
exact thing.
yeah, it sounds very, very similar. Okay, so what are you saying to them if they're like, "Oh no, this is Ally Burnett. This isn't James Smith."
So like if it's a bad number,
Yeah, well, yeah. Are you still trying to convert those two?
yeah, it's just, oh, okay, I'm sorry. You wouldn't happen to know anybody that's thinking about buying or selling a house, would you? And sometimes they're like, I don't even know where you are. Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, really bad number. My bad. Or I'll say like, you don't know anything about the house at 123 Main Street. Oh, that's my old house. We sold it years ago.
Mm. Can you share a story of maybe when you were trying to obtain a listing, you're calling through those seller leads, and you ended up having a buyer? How did that go?
Well, most people that are going to sell also need to buy. I mean, I don't know what the statistic is, but like most people don't sell their home with nowhere to go. So, I mean, it happens all the time. I'll tell you this story. So I had a woman that I called, I don't know, but 2 years ago at this point, probably. So let's say like a year and a half. We closed this one like 6 months ago, but it stands out. So let's say a year and a half before we ever did any business together. And I want to say that she had a friend or somebody that was looking, but it wasn't really her. And again, like the conversation, we know that not everybody's going to be a yes. Not everybody's even thinking about it. I'd love to be that person for you in the future. Would it be okay if I just sent you over my contact info so that you have it in case anything would ever change? Sure, send it over. Okay, cool. What's a good email address? I don't tell them, can I email you? I say,
Oh
what
yeah,
can
100%.
I send you over my info? Sure, send whatever you want. Like they can sense that the call's getting ready to wrap up, so they're going with it. And they're like, yes, cool, yes. All right, cool. What's a good email address? And they're like, shoot, I didn't know he was going to ask me for an email address. Like you can hear the hesitation, but then they just give it to you.
Sure.
So, and I'm sure some of them are fake. Like, again, everybody will use these as like reasons why you should just not even make the phone call. But it's, again, like, it's better than what you will get from sitting there doing absolutely nothing. It's not like anybody's going to use the time that they would be making cold calls at whatever they think the conversion rate is, that they're going to go out there and they're going to do something with a higher conversion rate or like a higher efficiency rate or effective rate.
Sure.
So, anyway, we exchanged information. I don't recall that there was ever any like, yes, we're definitely going to move, anything like that. Followed up with her maybe a couple times, had her on a market update and, see her interactive, whatever. So once a month, she's getting the, hey, these homes near you sold kind of thing. Um, Followed up, there was never really anything there. Just like quarterly, we just called basically everybody in our database, or we try to, right? Like we've got a big pond. I'm sure you guys do too.
Hmm.
Um, and at one point, she calls me back and she's like, hey, there's a condo that my husband and I want to go look at. Cool. Yeah, I know that I'm familiar with the neighborhood. Like, let's do it. Let's go. Set up the showing with them, took them to see the condo. I think there was an open house. I met them at the open house. So we walk in together, like we met for the first time outside. We walk in together. They love it. They're like, what do we got to do? You got to sell your house to get the money to pay for this one. Okay, can you come to our house now? So I go over to their house now, right after the, open house. We basically like I'm on my iPad creating the listing loop in dot loop, creating the paperwork. Like I don't have any of this ready. We had a buyer agency contract that we needed to even go into the showing together. We end up writing the offer contingent on the sale of their house, put in the offer. We have to hurry up and scramble to get their house on the market in like 2 days, but sold the house quick. We made everything line up, everything worked out to where they were able to close on, both properties in the same day. So nothing really spectacular about that story. It was a buy and a sell. Like 2 months later, I call her back, probably later than I intended, just to check in and see how everything's going with the new house, just like how you follow up with your past clients. She goes, I don't know if you might not know this, but Dan died. Her husband passed away.
So sad.
Very sad. I had no idea. Like I felt bad, even like the way I reacted. It caught me so off guard. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And then I'm like, "Wait, why would she be kidding me about her husband dying? That's not,
Yeah.
that's an insensitive question for me to even ask." But I'm like, "Oh my God, I had no idea. No, I like, how would I know that? I'm so sorry." She's like, "Let me tell you something though. He died like 2 weeks after we moved in, so it had been like 6 weeks at this point. Still pretty fresh, but like
Yeah.
um right immediately after we closed and they got moved in. And she's like, let me tell you something. He was so determined. We were not moving. We were not moving. And then all of a sudden he started not feeling good. And he realized they were older. And she's like, he realized, I think, that like he's not going to be around forever. And if he leaves me in this house, the old house, I was not going to be able to take care of it. It was going to be too much maintenance. The house was too old, all of these things. Um, and that I needed to get into a condo. But I think he also knew that without his pension and his social security and everything else, that I wasn't going to be able to make that move on my own either. And that's why all of a sudden it was like that, where they kicked into gear and they called me and they were like, we need to, buy and sell this house. She's like, if you would have never cold called me though, I don't know what would have happened. I really don't feel like I'd be living in this condo right now. I feel like he would have passed away, obviously, either way. Um, but I'd still be living in that house that would not work for me, that I would not be able to maintain. I would not be able to make this move now into this condo that we ended up buying because I wouldn't be able to have, show income to get a mortgage or do like any of this stuff.
Hmm.
She's like, and I wouldn't even know where to begin with like all of the other stuff with paying the bills and all that. Like the HOA here takes care of the water, the sewer, the maintenance, snow removal. I don't have to worry about anything. I'm in such like a good place right now, and I'm so grateful to my husband
Aw,
for lining this all up and making it all happen. But I'm grateful for you for like kicking this off and igniting that spark that led to this. And I'm
aw.
like standing out of my office. I'm making my call. Like this is during our lead generation session. And I'm like, I'm going to follow up with this past client. And I'm like out there in tears while my team's like
What's
calling
wrong with
leads, like
him?
looking at me like, what's wrong with this dude? Um, and it was, and then the next call I made, somebody was like, don't call me ever again. You suck, and hung up on me. But I'm like, that one call made it worth it.
Hold on to that for a while.
I'm gonna
Hold
hold
on to
on to that
that.
for a while. I'm still holding on to it. That's not like that's the one that is probably I would say most recent or relatively recent that kind of jumps out for that reason because she actually said like thank you for making that call. I don't know where I'd be right now if it wasn't for that. Like, And the other great part is like I wasn't the hero in that story. Her husband was the hero, but I was kind of like the guide or the sidekick that kind of like came in and helped guide them to where they needed to be.
I mean, that's
Um,
awesome. I mean, I think I said this in the last episode with Nikki, but I think most real estate agents have a really good heart. You kind of have to because this is like not that easy.
yeah,
And it's kind of moments like those that makes it all worth it. Like all of the like F you and like the don't ever call me again
yeah,
and that sort of thing. Like those are the moments that I think make it all worth it. But it sometimes it takes a little bit to get to that point. Like it's not going to happen on call one or two. I mean, maybe it could, but the probability is slim. So,
yeah,
like you just gotta, the repetition. It's going to compound on itself.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's getting into relationships with people and that's part of being in relationships with people is like people pass away. I get invited to clients' weddings and stuff like that. Like I don't have I don't have enough friends that I could have went out and done the amount of business that I've done in the last 10 years just based on friends and family alone. I have more friends now than I did 10 years ago because I've turned so many of these clients into friends. Like we connected based on their need for real estate and it turned into a relationship. The other thing I see with agents is they try to rely on their friends and family. And these people usually are using them out of like guilt or like they think that they have to. And it's not a good foundation for a relationship. And by the end of the transaction, like they're not friends anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of agents that do it well. There's agents that are brokers that do it very well. But we joke. There's another agent that we're friends with at our office, and we joke that whenever our sphere annoys us, we're like, "Go hire her. We don't even need the money. It's okay." Like, like, a couple months ago, sorry, mom and dad, but we were working with my mom, and we were also working with my dad, to get them separate houses or whatever, and both of them. We were like, you're driving us crazy. We love you, but you're driving us crazy.
Yeah,
So I totally understand. And I think it's just a very, very scalable way to work efficiently and use your time well. And, we're out of time. And honestly, I could talk about this for a while because, and I think like, to put a bow on it all, although we're mostly calling buyers and you're mostly calling sellers, the concept's still the same. It's
all the
getting out
same.
there, making the calls, getting the numbers in, having the conversations, making the relationship, and all the other things will come. It's
Yeah.
just getting into the action, doing the action of the calling. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, I think that's it. You're spot on. Like what prompts the conversation is not the purpose of the conversation. You talk to people, build relationships, make friends, whatever it may be, um, and find out what problem they have that buying or selling can actually help them with. I'm sure you guys convert buyer leads into sellers all the time too. Like it's not a far-fetched concept. I think agents shoot themselves in the foot by like this was a buyer lead, so I'm only going to ask them about buying and they don't have a house to buy, so why would I even bother asking them if they have a house to sell? Or they
Yeah.
get caught up on like oh, you came in on realtor.com, and they're like, when, I don't remember that. And they're like, it was Tuesday at 11:17 p.m. Does that ring a bell? Realtor.com, it's a real estate website. I'm like, that you're wasting so much time that you could be talking about what's actually important. Them, like talking about them, not where their how you got their contact information.
Were you on the internet yesterday? Yeah, I know. It's kind of like it's like silly.
Yeah, where did you get my number? Probably online somewhere. I don't even know.
You're
That's
funny.
it. Yeah.
Right, I know. Sometimes I tell people I'm in the FBI and then I'm like, just kidding. But thank you so much, Brian, for coming on our show today. And I'm looking forward to hopefully having you back in the future.
I love it. Thank you. Thanks for
Thanks.
having me.